Welcome to Backstage with Becca B, with special guests Lana McKissack and Nathan Moore. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, this married couple have not only been in a combined total of 10 shows at Rockwell Table and Stage, but they've also both had an extensive amount of television and movie appearances, and starred in plus produced content for a YouTube channel that brought in over 190,000 subscribers and over 13 million views. Please welcome Lana McKissack and Nathan Moore. How have you all been?
Good.
I missed you all.
Yeah, we've been good. We're, hunkered down.
Yeah.
Staying busy, staying safe and healthy and whatnot.
Surprisingly busy.
Yeah, surprisingly busy.
Yeah, you all have been busy.
Yeah.
Which
How about
is good.
you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm in Dallas, Texas, but I miss LA.
Yeah. Have you been there this whole time?
Since June.
Yeah, so for a while.
A while. I
That's
couldn't get home.
fun. It's nice that you get to be with your family right now, I feel like.
Yeah, and I'm glad I missed the earthquake.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
That was just jarring. It wasn't so, for us anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't so. I feel like there have been worse ones in the past couple of years, but,
Bianca was like, the apocalypse is coming. It's like in LA. And I was like, oh, okay.
That was the worst one. Didn't you feel like there've been a couple in the last couple of years where I was like, this is long.
Yeah, I was more worried about the fires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the smoke and all that crap.
Yeah, the earthquake last summer were pretty bad, though.
Yeah.
I didn't miss those. So anyways, I'll get right into theater stuff.
Let's do it.
Okay, yay.
Yay! Okay, so when was the first time for both of you? When was the first time you all knew that you wanted to have a career in the entertainment industry, whether it be theater, TV, film, behind the scenes?
Well, being born in LA, I think when you're a kid here, everybody just tries doing something in the entertainment industry just because it's so close and it's like, might as well. So I did my first commercial when I was 2, and I joined SAG when I was 10 and did, TV, film, commercials, theater from then on. So I knew pretty immediately, and it's not that I was pushed into it. I had my parents were very generous with allowing me to try different things. So I did gymnastics and figure skating and taekwondo and jiu-jitsu and dance and painting and all kinds of things that I'm not good at. Not good at any of those things. And then I was like, no, this is the thing that I love. So all those other things kind of fell away, and yeah, that's how I knew.
Okay. What about Nathan?
I kind of followed my sister into performing. There was a local organization at the beaches where I grew up called Youth of the Beaches Arts Guild, and they would do a summer production every summer of a musical. And my sister had gotten interested in performing, and rather than having my sister and I go to separate places for our summer camp, essentially my parents would just take me and drop me off with her. So I kind of got drafted into performing because of a carpool situation, and fell in love with it. And it was just very much my thing, and continued to pursue that. And then when I got into high school, I got introduced to television production and shooting and filming and editing and all of that side of things. And I think everything that's happened since then has been some sort of amalgamation of the two.
Yeah, because you've taken on, especially in the past couple of years, you've taken on directing and behind the scenes.
Yeah, even more than the performing. Doing a lot more producing, directing, writing. Just as I've grown as a storyteller, I feel like my want to be involved in the creation of the story itself has grown, and rather than just getting to contribute as an actor, I've had that pang and desire to really be there way before that process even starts, and to be involved in the creation and then in the decisions after that kind of stuff for the film and television side of things. And then for theater, really just getting to work with some of the most amazingly talented people I've ever seen in my entire life, including this one right here. But
say these things.
no, I mean, and again, like I feel very lucky because I followed Lana into the Rockwell space, in that she was performing there and had found community there amongst the creative geniuses that lurked, and I kind of got adopted and just kind of got my opportunity to start directing theater for the first time at Rockwell because of those relationships. And so here we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've met y'all through Rockwell, so like that's amazing.
I know.
I miss it so much.
I know. We miss it too.
I know everyone does. And then I'm going to get more into Rockwell a little later for sure. But I have to ask, what was the first theater show you all ever saw?
I can tell you the first one that had a kind of impact on me, that opened the doors to the kind of performing world, other than just kind of attending and being forced to sit through something, was Les Mis. And that was when I was in 7th grade. I saw the national tour of Les Mis, and it blew my face off, just with the scale of the performance and the theatricality of the costumes and the performers, and I just never seen anything like it, and I couldn't stop talking about it afterwards. And it is what kind of, at the same time of following my sister into the theater, kind of propelled me toward the arts, and toward even my most recent project is a feature film called The Rising Hawk that comes out on October 2nd in the United States and Canada. And it's this huge historical epic, and I can draw a straight line from it back to watching Les Mis and going, how do I recreate this for someone else?
Yes. Les Mis. Genius.
Yeah, I honestly am not sure what the first show I saw was, but I've seen Les Mis the most. I've seen it probably 10 times or so.
Yes.
But yeah, I have a vague memory of being a child, and we saw a lot of theater. I mean, just all the touring companies that came through LA. But I remember seeing Cats and crying and demanding to leave. I think I was really little. I think I was probably scared of the Cats, but I also was just like, what is this?
And how do you feel about Cats now?
Wait, how do you feel about it now?
No, I mean, you know what? I haven't seen it since. The movie, look, I had a blast watching it. It was very fun. But yeah, I haven't seen the live show since that one time that I walked out. So I don't know how I feel about it, but I didn't like it then.
Did you have an aisle seat?
No.
You know, that's a great question. I don't remember. I just remember my mom being like, stop this. You're making a scene. And me being like, ah! And she was like, stop this. And then, like, I remember getting yelled at in the bathroom for making noise. But I'm like, you're the one who brought a child to this crazy show that has...
It's just one dial away from being horror.
It kind of is, especially if you're on the aisle. That's why I asked, because the first time I went, I was on the aisle, and I was like, oh, they, like, come up and, like, they don't give you warning, and they, like, come up and, like, touch you, and, like...
Oh, see, I don't even remember that, so maybe that is what happened. That would be scary.
Pre-COVID theater.
there was like someone touching my head, and I like looked back. I was like, who was touching my head? And it's like one of that.
There's a cat perched on your shoulder.
And I'm like, this isn't a Rockwell show. Like, look, at Rockwell, like, I expect this.
Yeah. They're like drinking your drink. You're like, maybe this is Rockwell.
I'm like, wait, this is, interesting. Maybe they should try a change of venue.
There you
Yeah,
go.
true.
So people expect it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then you all both went to school for musical theater, right?
I went to UCLA.
And I went to Elon University.
Okay. What was the experience like at the schools for musical theater, and what was the most valuable takeaway you all had?
UCLA was incredible. I absolutely loved every second of it, and I miss it. College was so much fun for me. It was quite intense. It's a BA program, not a BFA, so it's not as intense as some other programs I've heard. But I mean, it's pretty, we started, we had 8 a.m. Tai Chi. I think it was 3 days a week. And that was for, I think, a couple of years we had that. I'm trying to remember now. But then it was like from that point on, you had class all the way till 6. And then you had an hour break. And then if you were in a show, you had rehearsal from 7 to 11. And then you had to walk like 30 minutes back from the theater school to the dorms. And then you'd start all over the next day. And that, that's like not accounting for the social aspect of college. That's just class. But it was so fun. I loved it. And what was the second part of the question?
What was your most valuable takeaway from like lesson learned?
My most valuable takeaway, I guess, something that I realize now is really valuable is having to learn a lot of things that I wasn't really interested in, but it's like the general education portion of your degree, not just like the college version, not like the general like English and math and that kind of stuff, but like of theater. So we had to do costume shop and lighting shop and like learn how to hang lights. We had to physically like learn how to, sew costumes, and we had to be backstage for some of the plays that we weren't in, and that kind of stuff. At the time, I'm like, I have no desire, intro to directing and like set design. I'm like the worst artist in the world, so that was a big struggle for me. But it was really valuable to do that, not only for learning aspects of those skills, but also realizing, hey, some of these things come in handy later. Like, I think especially, in the entertainment industry, in the way that it is now, so much of it is your success is based around being a go-getter and learning how to wear different hats and just going for it. And I think that was good preparation, because it's like, I don't really remember how to whip stitch anymore, but I have a lot of respect for people in all different jobs, and I there are little things that I go, oh, I didn't think I'd be holding a boom, but like, yeah, I kind of know how to do this, and I'm like, and it prepares you for the willingness to try new and difficult things, I think.
Yeah, more experience and more like, I can do that, this and this and this.
Yeah, just the confidence of knowing like, I'm not going to be great at this right away, but like, I'll do it. I'll try anything.
Yeah. And then Nathan.
I went to Elon University and their BFA musical theater program. And I think the things that I got, the environment that I was a part of was very nurturing as far as the community, like within the group of people. And there was a small-ish department, so there's only like 10 to 20 people per year. And so the relationships have really, for me, been the thing that has continued on through, the years, or the ability to, have those, the kind of close connections to people. And I think college is a big part of learning that. learning how to interact with people and learning outside of the umbrella of protection that I had as somebody that grew up in my parents' house. Like, that was very lucky to have that. And then going to college and learning how to operate as a human being outside of that was really valuable for me to then grow as an adult and then be able to move across the country and meet new people and establish myself and make the kind of connections that you have to make in order to be able to produce work. And I think the most valuable thing that Elon taught me was something that they said at the very beginning of the program, because it is a liberal arts school, it's not a conservatory. And they said, you're going to get out of this program as much as you're willing to put in. So the amount of work that you put in is going to be reflected in, you know, the level of growth that you have and the amount of people that take notice and the, you know, those networks of people that you can build. And for me, that resonated, you know, the ability to go from wherever you are and whatever talent or skill level that you have and invest in that, and then really be able to see the growth and the building off of where you started. I feel like that has carried forward as well, you know, to us having a YouTube channel and shooting and editing and producing our own content, and then to the theater world as far as being able to pull resources and people together under, you know, a unified vision, to the film and television world, being able to pick up a telephone and ask somebody for something even though you have no idea what you're talking about. Just, you know, the idea is that you're going to get in, or you're going to get out of something what you put in. So
yeah, I find it so interesting that, like, everyone describes these theater programs at schools kind of like, I mean, my sister is on a gymnastics team and it's kind of like a sports team. It's like as competitive and like as like it takes up as much of your time as sports do essentially in college, which I feel like people don't realize.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's definitely a time commitment that if you're going to study, you know, at a, you know, program that has a committed track in that direction, you can go through, take all the classes and not invest yourself time-wise, but you're also not going to probably get very far as a performer goes.
I also think in college, you're paying so much to be there that if you're not getting everything out of it then you just shouldn't be there. Like, you don't have to go to college.
Truly.
You might as well, you know, do something that you love, because if you don't love this, you're going to be paying for it for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then Nathan mentioned YouTube, so I have to talk about YouTube before I get more into theater. How do you like manage to build a platform on YouTube like you have managed to?
Well, I think Lana should speak to that, since her name is the big name on the billboard, and she's the one that introduced me to the world as well.
When I started YouTube, I think it was 2007 or so. It was pretty new. And my best friend from college, Chester C., was making videos on there, and he's like, do you want to make some videos? And I was like, not really, but okay. Because I didn't know what it was, and, you know, it was new and weird, but I started my own channel. We did covers of things, and that's pretty much it. I just did song covers. And then when I met Nathan, and I think I had amassed, I'm not sure what the subscribership was when we met, but it
was like 16,000.
I think so Nathan's like, whoa.
So then I went on this internet reality show called Internet Icon, and then my subscribership continued to grow and climb, and then Nathan and I decided to start making our own videos. And Nathan didn't have a ton of experience. Like, you had done video production stuff in school, but YouTube's a different beast. It's like edited differently, it's shot differently. So we, Nathan got a computer and a camera, and we learned how to use Final Cut, or I should say he did. And, got all the software and just kind of figured it out. And if you watch this sort of the growth of our channel, you can see like, oh, that's where they learned sound, and now the color looks better. Oh, cool. So that's kind of fun to look back at. But by the time, we haven't posted in, I don't know, 5 years or so, but we grew to almost 200,000 subscribers by the time we paused. And yeah, it's just a sort of like learning process, really, and doing things that make you happy, because at a certain point we realized, okay, the way to grow is to post constantly. You're not posting about every day, it's difficult to
Right.
grow your audience. But that meant, looking back now, putting up a ton of not so great things. Not a ton. Some of them I'm very proud of. Some of them I'm like, oh my God, we clearly just needed something to put out that day, and it's embarrassing. So I've gone through and privated a few things now, but but yeah, it was just a big learning process and a lot of fun. And then it got to the point where it wasn't fun anymore, because it was all the things that we loved and that we put our heart and soul into and a lot of money into. Those would get like larger scale sketches or dramatic content. Those would get like a fifth of the views of like me putting makeup on Nathan, being like, because that's what people go to YouTube to see, is like the fun.
So the time investment that we were putting into the projects as they grew and became like bigger and got more people involved, we got the opportunity through YouTube and the YouTube space to work with people like Stan Lee. We shot a short film that he was actually in.
Yeah, he made a little cameo.
And then we got
Guillermo del Toro.
We worked with and had a whole notes session with him on a horror short film that we wrote, produced, and that we've since been developing into a feature. And so the opportunities to grow what we wanted to do into what we wanted to, where we wanted to go, as far as like the scripted, more narrative-based content, became more readily available off of YouTube because of the YouTube algorithm to just drive traffic as people posted more regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's without an entire production team behind us, and it's just the two of us, it became really difficult to kind of keep up with that kind of content output. Our bandwidth just couldn't hold up. And I'm sure that in creating your own channel and brand, that it's a full-time job. And then you do have success and people do start to look at it, it becomes even more of a full-time job, because if you want it to click over into that thing where you're actually making money and it's supporting you, you have to invest more time into it. So it becomes that balance of, yes, we were able to support ourselves by doing it, but it was just monopolizing all of our time, and we weren't getting the kind of traffic or the kind of response that we felt the time investment was taking. So we started to invest our opportunities off of YouTube and film and television projects. And weirdly enough, after having built the base on YouTube, the industry has come back to YouTube and the digital streaming platforms, and a lot of the more traditional things that we were trying to build toward getting have now come back to the streamers and the people that have their own bases on the internet, and look to them to help point the direction of where the entertainment content is going with platforms like that have shorter attention spans.
Yeah, like Instagram and TikTok
and all of that. Yeah.
And how did you all meet? Because I don't think I know this story, but how did you all meet and like team up on these things?
We met through a mutual friend at a board game night. It was her birthday party, and we played board games together and fell in love. And yeah, we've been together for 10 years.
Aw.
Been together a minute.
10 and a half years.
But it was very much a matter of once we spent time together, both of us were smitten, and then after having, you know, being in a relationship with one another for almost a year, we then started to create stuff together. When we
Was it that long?
Yeah.
Huh.
Our first thing we actually put out was in October of the year that we met.
Okay.
And we met in January, so almost a year. But it just became like a part of our relationship, really. Like even our wedding proposal was built around
the guise of filming a video that was not real, but I didn't know. Yeah, it's funny because you were talking about it being a full-time job, and for the first couple years that we were doing it, it was technically not. We both had full-time jobs, and then, you know, at night we'd be like, all right, we got to write something, and like we'd shoot it, and then Nathan would be editing, you know, in the middle of the night. And for a while that's really fun and exciting, and because we have a very strong mutual respect for one another, you know, we were able to do it in a way where we didn't want to kill each other, which I think can happen in those high stress, like little sleep situations. And then it became more of a full-time job when we started to get like success and income from it. We were like, okay, well, we can focus on this. But weirdly, that is sort of when it stopped being as fun, when it was like, well, now we're kind of depending on this to live, and now it's like more important as opposed to a hobby that happens to bring in some income.
Yeah, and you're still losing sleep over it. Like,
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your sleep schedule is still completely messed up.
Yep.
So then, before getting back into theater, but before you all discovered Rockwell, what was your favorite theater show you did pre-Rockwell?
Good question.
That is a good question.
I think for me, I have like different theater experiences that span more than just a single show, because most of the theater that I did prior to Rockwell was either in summer stock, so I did a number of shows with the same group of people, or I worked on the Disney cruise ship right out of college, and we did like 6 different shows over the course of a week. But again, it was with the same group of people. So it's experiences like that, and like the cruise ship, and like Rockwell, where you get to do several shows with the same group of people, that for me end up being the things I remember, not necessarily the individual shows, but the group that did the show together. But if I had to name one, I did this show in college called Lend Me a Tenor my freshman year, and it was a comedy, and it's I don't know that it holds up PC wise 20 years later. There's some controversial subjects, but it was
I don't know that show. Now I'm intrigued.
Yes, because Ken Ludwig, I believe, is the author.
Okay.
But I remember the experience of actually being in the show as a freshman and having like a big part and getting to like do it, being very exciting, and feeling like I had made the right decision as far as pursuing the arts, you know, into college, because you have those doubts, certainly, you know, at that time and even now, but like the decision to actually go to college and study the arts rather than something that is traditionally more reliable, is always there's always a lot of outside pressure and kind of and influence from people. And so for me, getting there and then immediately my first year booking something there at least gave me the confidence to be upright moving forward.
Yes, you're like, I could do this as a career.
Yeah, yeah, and it was just a a college show, but to me it signaled something that was affirming.
I love that.
My favorite show pre-Rockwell was the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. That was actually the show I was doing when we met, so he got to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I played Marcy Park. It was just so fun. It was a lot like Rockwell, actually. I mean, it was a proscenium show, but if you know the show, it's pretty interactive, and there are a couple of audience members who are brought up and sit with us on the stage, and it's always different. You don't know, there are different contingencies for how people respond to things, but it's different every night, depending on, if an audience member spells a word correctly or not, or if they're, trying to be funny, and you gotta say, that's not your job, it's our job. Go sit down. Yeah, that's what I love about theater and places like Rockwell. But also with this show where it's not the same every time, because I think that I've never done like an 8-show a week schedule. Is that true? Yeah. I think I've done a few shows that are like 6 shows a week, but not 8. And I feel like it could be maybe a little monotonous if it's the same and you're doing it for a really long time. But when it's just, you're constantly on your toes, you never get bored or tired of anything because you don't know what's coming. And I just find that exhilarating.
Yeah, and that brings up Rockwell because that describes Rockwell to a T.
Yeah.
So, how did you all discover Rockwell? I know the first show I saw Lana and there was Devil Wears Prada.
So my friend AJ Raphael, who is also a YouTuber, we put together this Disney concert, and we were looking for venues, and I had been to Rockwell. We'd both been to Rockwell, but it was before they tore the wall down. So it was, in the OG for the record days. Yeah, it was just that tiny little area. And I had a couple friends who were in for the record. I think we both saw Baz Luhrmann.
Did you see Romeo and Juliet?
No, I did not see that. But that wasn't for the record.
We saw a couple shows there.
John Hughes was
on John Hughes.
And then that was at DBA, but we saw Tarantino as well. Anyway, that was my experience with it, was just that. And I went, there's this place, and I don't know anything about it, but the venue was pretty cool. And then we looked at it and we were like, oh, snap. Now it's like this whole other thing where they tore the wall down and it was an actual big space with a big stage. And we were like, this seems like a possibility. So I wrote an email and I was like, hi, we're looking for a venue for our show. And, and so we rented it for that. And then I guess it was like a year later or so. No, a few months later.
What happened is they rented it and then they like oversold it in the first like 2 or 3 days. Like it was packed.
Well, at first they were like, you guys need to have you need to hit a certain number of tickets sold or you can't do this show. And we were like, okay. And we hadn't promoted it yet. We had just set it up and we were like figuring out a way to advertise it. But then, I had a relatively big following. AJ had a huge following. And so we announced it and then we sold it out pretty quickly. And they had to keep adding chairs on the day of because some people just showed up and they were like, we're at capacity. And that was very cool because, you never know when you're self-producing something. You're like, I hope people come, but
So I think that event got her on the radar of Kate
Pazakis, who was running
executive producer.
Yeah, she was the executive producer, and she created the Unauthorized musical parody series at Rockwell. And she called me one day, I think it was like right before Christmas that year. That was 2016. And she said, hey, I do these parodies. I don't know if you've seen them. I hadn't. But I would love for you to audition for this. And I was like, okay, I would love to, but it was a day that I couldn't come in. And I said, can I send in a tape? And, for theater at that time, now everybody's taping, but at that time, I was like, no, you go in person. And I was like, they're not going to want to see me. And she was like, yeah, sure, send a tape, whatever. And I was like, okay. And having not seen any of the shows, I didn't know the tone. I didn't really know, I just had the basic script, which wasn't even what ended up being the real script. It was just like scenes pulled from the movie. And like, I didn't know that the parodies were what they are. So I don't think I was even particularly funny. I was just kind of doing a straight read of The Devil Wears Prada.
But that ended up being kind of the straight role in that show.
Yeah, exactly.
So it played well.
Yeah, I was reading for Andy Sachs, who's the Anne Hathaway character, and she's, she is sort of the straight man to a degree. So yeah, anyway, I remember being in Florida with his family for the holidays, and I got this email on Christmas Eve. It was like, we'd like to offer you this role of Andy Sachs. You're going to share it with this amazing person, Kelly Jekyll. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Like I really didn't expect it. And then when I got there and met everyone, and Kelly, who's a dream, who I love so much, like we're still very good friends to this day. It changed my life. Rockwell totally changed a lot of aspects of my life and opened a lot of doors for me. And I was there for the better part of 4 years before all of this happened. So it was, that's how I got in. And then Nathan would come and watch the shows pretty frequently. Cause I was there a couple nights a week, and, if we wanted to have weekend dates, it was like, well, then you're gonna have to come see the show and we'll hang out afterwards. And then, Ty Blue, who had directed The Devil Wears Prada, was then doing The Big Lebowski, and he was like, they had added a couple shows, I think, and some people couldn't do it, and they were like, they knew that Nathan had a performance background, and said, do you think he'd be interested in subbing in for like 3 shows of The Big Lebowski, playing Mr. Lebowski? Mm-hmm. And Nathan was like, I haven't really done theater in a little while.
It had been 10 years since I had been on stage.
Had it been?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so
Rockwell brought me back out of theater retirement.
I was so proud of you, because you really didn't want to do it, but it was not because like you wanted to do it, but I think it was probably scary and
it was all nerves. It was after having seen the level of talent that performs on that stage, and just the amount of skill it takes to really control an audience when you're that close to them. It's as close to stand-up comedy as theater gets without being stand-up comedy. And stand-up comedy, I feel like, is my worst fear. And so
most people's
putting myself in that close of proximity to something that I've always kind of been scared of was definitely a hurdle that I had to get by. But luckily, I called Peter Allen Vogt and John Flynn, who were playing the role that I've been asked to sub in on. And I just was really upfront, and I said, hey, I've seen both of you guys perform numbers of times in this role, and I think you're both hilarious. Can I cherry pick from you the things I think were funny, so that I can feel comfortable getting up on stage with no rehearsal and just performing? And both of them were incredibly gracious and giving me pointers and telling me what worked for them and why. And then I took those things and took things that I added to it as well, and I felt very comfortable going up on stage surrounded by the people like Damon Gravina. So it was experiences like that going up on stage that later on, when I was asked to direct, became kind of the linchpin or the cornerstone of how I started to direct, and getting people that I knew could flourish in those type of situations, and being able to get information very quickly, process it, and then add their own spin to it in that fast of a time, and do that while singing, dancing, and trying not to sweat on the people eating.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize, I mean, I'm sure other people have talked about it, but just how crazy the rehearsal process is at Rockwell. Because if you are cast in a show from the get-go, it's already a pretty accelerated process. Like, sometimes the script is not even finished by the time you start. Like Devil Wears Prada, we didn't even get Act 2 until like, I want to say 6 days before the show opened. And it was like, 10 new songs we had to learn, and like all the dialogue and all the blocking and the choreography. There wasn't a ton of choreography at the time, but you know, it's a lot. And then if you're subbing into a show, which we've both done, so have you done it more than that time?
No.
Okay, I've done it many times. I've subbed into a lot of shows at Rockwell. It's terrifying, and it's a lot because you're basically they don't have rehearsals. They might have one. They'll have one put in rehearsal, but not everyone comes. It's, you know, because people have jobs and whatever, and so everyone who can come comes, and you sort of run through it, but it's not with the band, and it's like not with the costumes, and you're just kind of going, all right, and you know, you've just memorized it. And honestly, we have you to thank for a lot of that, because it's your videos that we would watch and go, okay, where does that person go now? And and then they change over there. Okay, and then they have to. Okay, great, got it.
Because even as a director, I can speak to as far as that rehearsal process. Like, what happens with the shows once they get on their feet is something different than I direct usually. And I don't mean that I don't mean that in a negative way. Actually, I mean that in a positive way. In that the performers inhabit the roles and they guide the show and the action and the characters and the interactions. And so over time, they change just a little bit. And so when you're trying to place somebody else in the show, it's difficult because where you started and where the show is now are two different places. And as a director, I can be like, you need to make this your own, but this is the genesis of how we got here. And I think the ability to ingest information that quickly and sub in is also, it transfers forward as far as other projects are concerned, even in that Lana and I just shot a feature film during quarantine in which we rehearsed over Zoom over 5 days, got on stage, did 1 day of on-set rehearsal, and then shot a 90-page feature film in 3 days. And it was not unlike a Rockwell kind of timeline.
Yeah, because we had to basically learned 30-page. We had to learn the whole thing ahead of time, memorize, which is normal for a show, but that's not the way films are made. But we would do 30 pages a day, which is outrageous. Usually do like a few. So that was nuts, but definitely Rockwell gave us the experience and the training and the confidence that we could do it, because honestly, I do believe if you are thrown into a Rockwell show last minute, anyone who's done it will attest to this. I do believe you can do anything in the entertainment sphere because it is very hard. There's not a lot of reward. There is a lot of risk. It's scary the whole time. And then, you know, the way that I look at it is the first one is just terrifying. You're just going, I don't ruin the show. I hope I hit all my marks and say all my lines, and that's really all I'm worried about. The second one's more fun. And if you get to do it a few times, then great. But yeah, if you're just subbing in for one show, like nobody knows that you had no rehearsal. So nobody's going to go, oh, well, she only had one rehearsal. They're just going to go, well, that sucked. Or, oh yeah, the show was great. So there's no, you know, it's really like, it's a great
You don't
challenge.
get a disclaimer by subbing in.
Yeah. And there's audience members literally within like inches of, like sitting within inches of each other, and they're so packed into there together. So there's the added, I hope I don't crash into a server going to
I mean, I have that fear anyway, even if I'm with the show from the beginning. I'm like, I'm gonna kill someone by accident. But
I mean, people don't always pay attention when they get up either. Like when they get up during the show to go somewhere, or like sometimes the servers don't pay attention.
Well, we've also been a part of shows in which, you know, in Jurassic Park opening night, the gentleman that was playing our Dr. Malcolm stepped off the stage at the end of Act 1 and shattered his ankle.
Yeah, Becca was there because there's a video of it happening. You don't see the actual break, but you
hear it.
Him step off the stage, like past the camera. It's right when it happens.
Mm.
Yeah, and you can hear it, I think, a little bit.
Oh, really? I haven't listened to it. Oh, God.
But in you know, and so having been a part of experiences like that where people have gotten hurt, not by anybody's doing, but just by the natural like speed of the shows and like the movement of the shows, is as a sub stepping into that, you know, everyone else has to be ultra careful and also, you know, assisting and taking care of it. But as a performer, you know, you have to have at least enough comfort to be able to move around safely through very dark and narrow pathways where people are moving and things are happening, and remember choreography and remember all those things. And so it takes a very high level of concentration to be able to pull off. And usually the people that are really successful at it, you never know that they subbed in, because that's the level of professionalism and that's the level of talent that a lot of these people have. They're going straight from Rockwell stage to leading roles on Broadway and leading roles on film and television series, that people are wondering to themselves, why are they performing in this tiny theater in Los Feliz when they have these sort of fan bases and these sort of this talent that on a normal basis would be in front of thousands, if not more, people on a nightly basis. But we ended up getting to be a part of a little community and enclave that found this oasis that we were able to all congregate around for a number of years and be creative and be friends.
Yeah, it's so special. And the show's really like, you have to think on your feet during them too. So
Yeah.
how are you able to do that and think on your feet enough to improv and, like, I mean, make the audience enjoy the show and laugh and have like unexpected moments? Because like at a Rockwell show, you never know what to expect. You never know what lines to expect that aren't in the movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a matter of practice and just allowing yourself to go there. Because I think if it's hard the first couple shows, because you're really just trying to do what you've learned and what you've been rehearsing. And then I think you feel a little more free to play after two. I think it feels a little more like, okay, I got it. I've got the bones of it, and now I can play. That's how I feel anyway. But I think, you know, Devil Wears Prada, which, you know, was my first show there, somebody like grabbed my leg while I was walking, and I remember being like, what? I don't know what to do. You know, and I don't even remember what I said or did, but like, yeah, weird things happen. People talk over you. People start singing happy birthday in the middle of shows, and you're like, what?
I guess we're doing this now.
And then there's like sparklers, and we're singing like a dramatic song over here.
I think speaking to that is that I think is kind of the magic of once you do get comfortable, is the ability to listen and to pay attention to the varying things that happen from night to night and responding to those individual things. You know, it's kind of the playbook for improv, you know, yes and, but from a Rockwell perspective, you have to yes and within 8 bars or within 4 bars of music or within one line of dialogue. You have to be able to identify something and then get it back on track in order for the next piece to fall in line. So it does take a lot of like what Lana was saying, the listening and really keying into the people around you.
And I think something about Rockwell that is so special is that you're allowed to break that fourth wall and, like, you know, the audience is part of something special. I mean, that's how I've always felt being on stage and watching shows there. It's like, it feels like a shared experience. It's not just us performing for you. Like, you're part of it too. And I think there's nowhere else like that. That's you know, something that makes Rockwell so unique. I've done shows before. I was in a production of Miss Saigon where there was something happened with the kid playing Tam, and I think he had to go to the bathroom like right before he was supposed to come out, and so the engineer finishes singing If You Want to Die in Bed, and he's like, you need a visa to get in, and he's a huge number, and then Kim and Tam are supposed to come running on, while he's standing there and they don't come running on. And this is a dramatic operetta. Like, there's not dialogue. It's just like, you know, fully sung through, and he's standing there, and the conductor's in the pit like this, hands shaking, because like, and you know, everybody's like, they're just playing like this tension music, and you know, our wonderful engineer Kevin Bailey, he just goes, ah, I love Dreamland. He just started like saying weird things, but like, you know, it worked.
I did a show with Kevin.
I know. But it, you know, he was saying things that made sense in the context of the show, but like, you know, in that kind of situation, you don't have the crutch of being like, well, it sucks when somebody's got to pee and they miss their entrance, which you could absolutely do at Rockwell and people would love it and it would be hilarious. You know, it's just a different animal. So that's something that I think is so fun about Rockwell and so freeing and exciting, and like the adrenaline junkie in me loves that. The like, oh, I hope something goes not wrong. I don't ever want something to go wrong, but like, I hope something unexpected happens because then you get to play, and then the audience also, I think, feels like even more like they saw something special because they're like, oh my God, I was there the night that
This time. Yeah.
Yeah.
The night the lights went out and everyone put their
I wasn't there then.
I wasn't there either.
I'm
But
so
that's
upset. I'm so upset I wasn't there then.
No, me too.
And I wasn't there the last show before this all happened, so I'm sad about that too.
Well, that's probably for the best. It was, you know, we weren't quite aware when we did that show of what was going on, but
Yeah.
COVID had already struck and we just didn't really know it yet. So
I think we were at intermission when the message went out across LA as far as the lockdown happened. And so there was only like 10 people in the audience that day.
there were
anyway.
29 people.
29?
Yeah.
But we got the thing and we were like,
What?
Yeah, well, even showing up that morning, I remember it was weird because we were all like, something feels weird. Should we be doing this? But then people had bought tickets and we were then, again, we didn't know all the details of like how it is spread. Because honestly, that was the worst place to be in a situation like this. Like you're eating and people are sweating and singing around you. And, you know, so anyway, it's for the best that you weren't there because you were healthy and safe, and hopefully everyone who was there is as well. Like everyone who did the shows is healthy and safe, so presumably that goes for everyone else too.
It's just weird how fast like everything kind of like plummeted that month.
Oh,
truly.
So yeah, I think it was like when the NBA shut down that everything felt real because it was like, well, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're not going to stop a multi-billion-dollar industry from moving forward unless somebody has a real problem.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I was gonna ask what's both of your favorite shows at Rockwell? What have been both of your favorite shows at Rockwell? But I also have another added question. What's your favorite show that you've seen the other performing in at Rockwell?
Oh, that's a great question. I have a few favorites.
You've done like 9 shows there now, I think.
And 13 shows. Well, because I'm counting when I've done things twice. Okay. So like I did Hocus Pocus for 2 years, or like I did I subbed into Bridesmaids as 2 different characters. Yeah. My 2 favorites are, I loved It. I thought it was the most fun I've ever had on stage, period. It was just so fun and special and crazy and bizarre, and like I really loved it. I love everyone involved. We're still very close and we still chat all the time, and yeah, I thought that show was so special. And then my other favorite, it's the last 2 I did. The Never Been Kissed was my favorite in terms of what a magical experience of getting to act opposite Nathan and to like fall in love with him every night and to, you know, sing some awesome songs and to, you know, it was the first time since Devil Wears Prada, which had been 4 years prior, that I was playing like a romantic lead again. Well, I subbed into Bridesmaids, but this was like my show, Never Been Kissed, and like I got to do it the whole time, and it just felt like for a long stretch of time I was playing a bunch of children, which is so fun, but like I played a kid in Jurassic Park and twice in Hocus Pocus, and in It I was a kid, but it was different. Like I was playing a boy, and like I don't know, totally different thing. But like I just was like, I want to play like a woman, I want to play an adult woman, and I want to just I want to go back to like just doing something fun where I get to be funny, but I'm not like playing this like crazy character every once in a while.
And strangely enough, that came about because you were stepping in for somebody else that was,
we
both did.
Yeah, so that was actually, there were two other people cast in those roles, and I was actually supposed to play Aldous. And then, there were scheduling issues, and so I don't even think.
So we stepped up.
I did the table read. And I think I read for. Now I can't remember her name. What's the character's
Molly
name?
McCook.
Yeah, Molly.
The character's name.
Oh, I don't know.
I read for. What'd you say, Becca?
Yeah.
Why
don't I remember?
Apparently it's
Josie.
not Josie Grossi.
There we go.
Of course.
On.
Thank you. I read for her, I think, at a table read because Molly was gone, and but then I think the next day we had found out that she was no longer able to do the show. So then Emma was like,
her show, yeah.
Emma was like, we want you to play Josie full time, because I was gonna cover Josie on top of playing all this. Anyway, everything got switched around, and then I went to one rehearsal with someone who was supposed to play. What was your character's name? God, I don't know. The teacher, and then he had a conflict, and so I
stepped in like the second day of rehearsal.
Yeah, but I didn't even. It was so crazy because I remember being at lunch with Greg Neighbors, our music director, and Markeisha, who was in the show as well, and we were at sushi across the street, and Greg gets a phone call, and he goes, "Did you know Nathan's stepping into the show?" And I'm like, "How would I know that? I've been sitting here with you." And he's like, "Well, apparently, since we've been sitting here, somebody dropped out. They offered it to Nathan, and Nathan said yes." I was like, "Okay, that's great." It was just like all so everything is so sudden.
Right.
But yeah, and so those are my favorites for different reasons. I also really loved doing True Beverly Hills, and I have a soft spot for Devil Wears Prada as well. And I loved The Last Breakfast Club. It was totally different. It was more dramatic and tonally very different from anything else I've done at Rockwell. So I have several favorites, but the last two I did for different reasons were my favorites.
I love getting to see you two play opposite each other.
It's fun, yeah.
It's special.
Oh, now I have to say what my favorite thing was that I saw you in.
Oh, yes.
Lebowski, Hocus.
Bridesmaids. And then
Never Been Kissed. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, I feel like I can't say Never Been Kissed because I never got to actually just sit and watch you.
Yeah,
I loved
count.
acting opposite you in it, but it doesn't count. So then I would say, I did love seeing you play a little girl in Hocus Pocus amongst a million other things. But Bridesmaids is probably my favorite show at Rockwell I've seen you in because I got to see you be the male lead and be cute and funny and sexy and dorky and all the things, all the reasons people love you. Oh, not dorky, just very suave the whole time.
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
And I saw you shake your little butt, your juicy butt. Yeah, I loved that. And I watched that show, I don't even know, 10 million times, I'm going to say. I watched it a lot.
Becca.
Yeah, I think you have me beat, but I was there a lot. Yeah, that's my favorite.
I think for me, the favorite show I saw you in, I'll stick to shows that I didn't direct as well, was Troop Beverly Hills. And I remember being there almost every performance, just laughing. That cast and that show, for me, it tickled me so.
Yeah, that was a really, really fun show.
Was that before you did Hocus, or was that after?
Yeah.
Okay, that was before?
It was
Okay.
before, and then they brought it back at the same time. So there were a few weeks where I was doing double duty.
Okay. Wow. And then you're like, what show am I doing tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he had the same situation with Hocus Pocus and Bridesmaids the next year. And Ashley Argota, they were both doing double duty. So
that's crazy to me. That, like, because to an extent, I'm good at memorization, but like to memorize 2 scripts and like differentiate like what character you're playing that night, the stage directions that night.
I mean, I think if it's 2 different shows, it's really not as hard as you would think because you've memorized a specific track. I think what's challenging is when people swing and when they do multiple tracks of the same show, because then you're like, I'm doing the same song, but I'm singing a different part and I'm standing in a different place and I'm wearing something different. And like, that's confusing because you're like, last night I was, oh no, you know, I think I don't think I've actually done that at Rockwell, but like Janae has done it a million times. There are other, Emma, there are people who are just like killer.
But even stepping in though,
just
stepping in stuff, and learning the roles, that's impressive too. So.
I think my favorite show that I've performed in though, I think it would be Bridesmaids as well. Like again, it was just a joy to go to the theater every night and be around everybody, and it was one of those shows that I think it turned out to be where if you weren't on stage, you were watching what was happening on stage because everyone was such a fan of everyone else in the show that every night was a free ticket to go see some of the best performers around do something, and you just happened to be a part of that with them. And so for Bridesmaids, it was, the track that I had was very kind in letting me be off stage for large stretches of the show. So you
were like not in it for 20 minutes and then you'd come on and do your solo and then you'd be gone and like, take a bath, have some champagne.
Yeah, Marissa Jarrett-Winokur, who directed that, is a godsend for doing that. No, she directed the hell of that show, and it was just fun to sit back and watch everybody enjoy performing together as well. So I think that would be the performance one for me.
And as Lana said, I feel like it showed like off what you could do, that show.
Yeah, it showed his juicy butt is what you're trying to say.
Yes, that no.
See? That two comes up.
Sure. And do you have a show that you think has been the most challenging at Rockwell before I move on from Rockwell?
Challenging.
I mean, for me, the most recent, the It and League of Their Own, in what the kind of tone and speed and level of performance and level of lighting and all that technical wizardry, we were really getting to something that I was starting to, not starting to, but like I was really enjoying and seeing like how we could move out of just that space and be like a brand of theater that is interactive and that included the audience and the unknowns of live performance within the context of the show. And so those two shows were the most challenging. And one in that League of Their Own was a sports show, and putting sports on a stage is always a tricky situation. And fortunately, I was a producer on that, and Emma Hunton was the director on that, and she really had a vision for how to make that work, and the music and the characters, and getting to work with her and Kate in culling that show and curating that show into what it became.
And
like
Greg.
and Greg, of course. None of the shows happened without Greg.
Oh, yeah.
Like he really, if you're looking for like a tonal through line in those type of shows, I think Greg is it. His sense of music and timing and humor all are like just throughout every one of those shows.
League of Their Own is my favorite show that I've watched. I thought it was extraordinary. I loved it.
And Chad with his costumes and
oh yeah, everything was like stepped up. Like everybody looked great. Everyone sounded great. It
lighting,
was just, like so good.
And then with it, once we had done that level of execution with League of Their Own, I felt pressure to, okay, well, how do we up the game from there into doing the next show, in which is this horror genre carnival, craziness. And then they wanted to do both of the movies. And so how do you do two movies in one show? And that, those kind of challenges became the name of the game. Even with Stranger Things and doing the Choose Your Own Adventure, challenging what theater was.
Yeah, I forgot about Stranger Things. I loved Stranger Things.
Stranger Things was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jurassic and 10 Things I Hate About You, like every one of those shows, like I think that kept going is it was making its way toward a type of live performance that wasn't exactly theater and wasn't exactly cabaret and wasn't exactly stand-up comedy, and like it became something else, and it became something very unto itself, like Rockwell. And so I think in that, anybody that participated in any of those shows, either that I directed or prior to that either Marissa directed or Ty or Peter or anybody that came before, even I've seen shows there, I think the goal has always been to push performance forward and to push live entertainment forward and see how far and how much we can pack into like a small space like that, and really give people their money's worth as far as a level of talent and execution that is not necessarily done anywhere else that I've seen.
Yeah, special.
Yeah, I think for me the most challenging was probably the last Breakfast Club, because and it was maybe the most rewarding because of that, but like, because everything I'd done at Rockwell until that point was just like parody. And this was not that. This was, it had a parody element to it, but it was much more serious. It was the first time we had like extensive choreography. There was the turntable. It felt very like special. Like not that every other show wasn't special. Every show is special in its own way, but there was something about doing that, learning that show, and because it was like largely an homage to the Breakfast Club, it didn't make fun of the Breakfast Club at all. It just like
celebrated it.
Yeah, it celebrated it. So, I felt a level of like, all right, well, I've got to like pay respect to this movie and this character, but still make it fun, and it's still Rockwell, but now I'm also learning choreography that's far beyond, what I'd been used to doing. And yeah, I think it was like, I briefly mentioned it earlier, but that was another of my favorite shows just because it was so unique, and so the experience of it was great. I loved it. I felt a catharsis every show. I don't know, like at the end of it when we're all holding our fists in the air, I just felt like there was something very moving about that, to get to experience that every night. It was sort of like when I did Miss Saigon, and there's the scene where the helicopter comes down and all the GIs get up and like fly back away, and all the Vietnamese people are left on stage. Just like there's something about that shared experience of like oh my God, like in that sense, it's this huge tragedy. And because it's based on something real, you're just like, oh my God, this is awful, but it brings us all together. There was a similar feeling with Last Breakfast Club of like, you know, even though it's a fictional story, it's like, we all know how it feels to be one of these archetypes or a combination of these archetypes and go through, you know, high school and growing up and the difficulties of life and feeling like, okay, we made it through the other side. We're still alive. There's something really beautiful about that, that was challenging and very rewarding.
And I'll say too that I've pulled Bradley aside on several occasions and thanked him for his direction and writing as far as what he's brought to the Rockwell.
Yeah, it's something totally different from what we were all used to before.
Yeah, and really opened my eyes to the accessibility of those kind of real, tangible moments of exploration as far as the characters are concerned, and something that I tried to mimic and bring into even the parodies that I was directing, is being able to land one or two of those really like real moments in the midst of this comedy. Mm-hmm. One, surprises the audience, and two, if you're able to do it, then like really gives them, like she said, the catharsis and that emotional release, you know, that we desire as an audience member, you know, and having real human connection with something that's being presented to us.
Like Blackbird and League of Their Own, mm-hmm. and Creep and Stranger Things.
Exactly. And even like it, like having several of those moments throughout.
Elastic Heart.
Mm-hmm. So I think those moments all kind of sprung from having seen the effectiveness of the directing and writing of somebody like Bradley with The Last Breakfast Club.
This is Bradley Bredewig for your viewers.
Bradley Bredewig.
Don't know who we're talking about.
Of the Fosters and Good Trouble fame, creator. But his influence at Rockwell too has, I think, both as a performer for her getting to work with him, and then as a director getting to watch the work that he's done has been a big piece of growth as far as what the theater world can be open to, you know, like yes, it can be parody. Yes, it can be fun. Yes, it can challenge us. Yes, it can make you cry. Yes, it can make you laugh. And like all of those things are present and tangible and accessible to you if you really, you know, put yourself into the story and the work.
Why people love theater.
Yeah,
truly.
It gives you an escape, but it also gives you a different outlook and like real events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gives you an escape, but it also not in a way that you don't lose connection, like, because you are still connecting to the people that are in the room with you. You know, it's not escapism as in like you don't have to think about anything. No, you're still sharing in something communally with the other, you know, audience members, with the people on stage, you know, those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of what you said about Bradley, I feel like this opens up like a conversation about inspirations. Who inspires you in the entertainment industry? Like when acting, when directing, besides someone like Bradley?
I mean, I personally try to surround myself with the people that inspire me. So, you know, people like Lana, people like my co-creator and co-producer of the film The Rising Hawk, John Wynn. He's somebody that just has a creative engine that never stops. He's always writing and doing things. And so like when I encounter people that I find inspiring, I usually try to engage them and start to collaborate with them so that I can have that inspiration continually injected into my life. In a very, like what we were saying, real and connected sort of way. But from like a outside perspective, within the arts community, because I certainly have my own inspirations in my own personal life that, you know, range from my mother and father and sister to just individuals in history that I've read about. But I think as far as people working today that are really doing stuff that I'm excited by, Jon Favreau
Okay.
who is somebody that is able to create story on like a scale and level that I envy and that I aspire to, you know, with like the Lion Kings and the Star Wars and the Marvel universes. Is like he has his fingers in everything that I absolutely adore, and then on top of that has had a successful career as a performer in movies like Rudy, in movies like
Who's he in Rudy?
he's the goofy guy that befriends
I
him
don't
and then
remember.
like
I need
helps
to
him
rewatch
study
that.
and gets him into Notre Dame. It's really good, and
Okay.
Vince Vaughn is in that as well.
Really?
Yeah.
My memory sucks.
So somebody like
Tonight.
exactly somebody like Jon Favreau, who continues to get to perform under the umbrella of his own like creations, and get to work with people that are out there making like, you know, the most exciting stuff available. I that's where that's where I want to be. That's where I want to play. Those are the sandboxes I want to jump into.
Doing all the things.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm inspired constantly by many different things. I'm inspired by actors and actresses whose names I don't know, but who, when I see them, I'm like, man, this person is in everything. And I'll go on IMDb and I'll be like, they've been working consistently since 1974 or whatever. I'll be like, damn, like, you know, it's like, I respect that so much. I think it's such an accomplishment to be continuing to work in this industry for so long, and to, you know, not be, I don't know if it's like, you know, maybe they're not famous because they're not playing like the starring roles all the time, but to continue to find work, and to reinvent yourself and whatever, I think that's so admirable. And I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by people like Shonda Rhimes, who've created crazy empires, and, you know, despite the odds being against them, and who've continued to prove time and time again, like, no, I'm not a one-hit wonder. I'm not a one-trick pony. Like, here's another hit, here's another hit, here's another. It's like, oh, okay, like that's amazing. Someone like Lin-Manuel Miranda, who you're like, how do you even think to do that? To think so far outside the box at such a young age, and to have the confidence to go for it and be like, I'm gonna write a hip hop musical about Alexander Hamilton. Like, what? You hear that and you're like, that's insane. What are you even talking about? And then he does it and it's brilliant. But apart from it being brilliant, it's like to have the confidence in yourself to say, like, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to put years of my life into this, and I'm going to make it work, and it's going to be successful. I find that kind of confidence incredibly inspiring. Yeah, there are a million people I could list. Mariah Carey, I just love her forever.
Yes.
I'm so inspired by her. But yeah, the people that I work with on a daily basis too, that I choose to surround myself with, I'm very inspired by.
As he makes his little face.
I'm inspired by this face, the face that launched 1,000 shows.
Yeah.
Oh. I retract everything I just said.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. And then, I mean, you all have had success in not only theater, but in TV, film. So how would you give any advice to people who are wanting to pursue TV, film, theater, like in this industry? Because as you all mentioned, it's like so tough.
Sure.
And you all have been successful in all three, so.
I mean, I think the common thread as far as any of our successes has always been our ability to be self-starters, because it what tends to happen is any momentum that you build for yourself, people tend to jump on board. Not that they're bandwagoners, but that they see the momentum and they want to participate in something that is going forward, and that is being created. So a lot of times you have to be that initial inertia, that gets the ball rolling down the hill for other people to be able to recognize as movement. Like part of nature is a lot of times, the over evolution, people will recognize movement, and that's how they hunt, and that's how they see things in order to get their attention. And I think we as creators and as artists are a lot like that, and that when we see movement on something, we initially we go toward it. So to be the movement and to bring other people to you has always been, I think, for us, the key to really finding success. And it never comes in the time that you want it to. My mother has a saying that everything has its season, and that
everything has its season,
and that it is not up to you when that season comes.
And it's not up to you when that season comes.
And we're now going to write a whole musical right here.
Exactly. With the words of Shelley Moore.
Yes.
And the music of Pippin.
Music of Pippin.
Okay. That is Pippin, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think as far as the success that we found, and this is, she's probably going to have a different answer. But it really, it has to come from you knowing your own worth, and then you applying just hard work and into creating opportunity for yourself. And especially as theater starts to evolve moving forward, there's a lot of digital space available to create, in which there's a vacuum as far as entertainment is concerned right now. So creating entertainment that people can engage in now, that people want to repeat view and to come back to, and that they find a commonality in, is great now, because you have people's attention and they're looking for things to entertain them, in which they would normally go out and engage in live entertainment. So if there are ideas or platforms that you're looking to try to figure out and to invest in, then I would say do it now, because the things are going to shift. And as long as you, to bring it full circle, listen and look and observe what's happening, you'll be able to find those opportunities and respond in the time appropriate to take advantage of them.
Yes.
Very good advice.
That was a really good answer.
I would say number one, do things that scare you, because every piece of growth I've ever had in my entire life has come from something I didn't want to do initially. And it's always because I was scared. It's never I can tell when I'm resistant to something because it's something I haven't done before, or something I think I can't do. And then I go, all right, well, I'm just going to do it. And maybe I'll make a complete fool of myself, or maybe I won't. But either way, the world's not going to end, and maybe something cool will come from it. And every time I've done that, something really exciting has happened. I can list 100 different things where I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did that. I really can't believe I did that, but I did it. And, and then something unexpected happened. And then the other thing I'd say is to find things that bring you joy outside of work, because this is something I've had to learn the hard way. When your passion is your career, it's so easy to be obsessed with it and focus only on it. And then and everything's so personal. When you don't get something, it hurts so much because you wanted it so badly. When you do get something, other things fall to the wayside because you're so ecstatic that it happened, and you maybe make a big deal out of it when you make too big of a deal of it. I can say from personal experience that one of the best lessons I've learned is just saying, all right, I love what I do. I'm so lucky to get to do what I do. But at the end of the day, it can't be the only thing that brings me happiness, or I'm going to be miserable most of the time. Because at best, you're booking, 10% of the jobs that you're going out for. That's probably even a high number. I don't know. But yeah, so take risks and then find things that make you happy outside of work. And I think you will find a place for yourself in this business if you continue to also do what he said and work hard and listen. And
yeah. And there's so much rejection, and y'all are like, so everyone in this industry is so strong to like face that much rejection.
Strong or stupid? I'm not sure which.
I think strong.
Okay.
I don't know, because I mean, you'll like keep going for it and like try, like it's persistence.
Well, the trick to it is fail fast. Like if you can get used to doing something and knowing that you're either wrong-footed in how you started or you need to course correct, then great. But like getting started and doing and going and persisting, like we keep reminding each other, like make them say no to you. Like if you want something, and we don't mean that in an aggressive type, like being annoying fashion, but if you're passionate about something, then put it forth. And if you do so in a manner, and if you conduct yourself in a professional manner and have a resume and a presentation that is representative of that, then you should step forth in confidence in what you're presenting to the world, and know that the opportunity for people to embrace it or not will be there. But to just take that initiative to put it out there and run that risk, because there's the opportunity for them to reject you, yes, but there is the opportunity for them to say yes, and there is the opportunity for them to be excited about something and to get on board and to feel part of something and for it to become their favorite thing. But you'll never know that unless you make it and unless you get it out in front of people.
Yes. Go for stuff.
Yeah.
And then a couple quick questions to start wrapping up. If you could turn a movie into a musical, what would it be?
Movie into a musical? I got mine.
Go.
Yep.
Three Amigos.
Well,
Three Amigos.
Is that? No, that's not a musical.
No, but there's music in the movie.
Okay.
Already. There's some great songs that Steve Martin wrote. And there's just these, I feel like it could be like a producer's, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one that has ever had that idea, but it's just, to me, it makes too much sense.
Gotta make that happen. You're like, I'm on it.
I'm on it. Actually, the show that we were writing for the next parody was, which will, I don't think happen now, was The Matrix. And that's something that I've wanted to turn into a parody musical for as long as I've been directing at Rockwell, at least. Like, I wanted to do that prior to doing Jurassic Park, which was the first one I ever directed there.
I think you've mentioned that before, and I hope that someday that it can happen.
I mean, it's fun.
Written?
Half of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see where the world goes.
We'll see.
I would like to make Independence Day into a musical.
Oh.
It is my favorite blockbuster. There are aliens.
Ooh, Aliens would be another good musical.
There's, Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum power duo. Buddy cop alien.
Anytime
musical.
you get to put a Jeff Goldblum into a musical situation, I think you have a recipe for success.
Yeah, and an obligation to do it.
An obligation to give that to the world.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Strong.
For sure. And then there's lots of different 90s songs used in, like 90s, 80s, 2000 songs used in the Rockwell parodies. What's your favorite 90s song? Or 80s?
Oh my God.
Favorite 80s or 90s?
Oh, well, I've got a Vision of Love, Mariah Carey.
Yes.
It's maybe my favorite song of all time, but definitely my favorite 90s song.
I think for me, it would have to be Harvey Danger, Flagpole Sitta.
Paranoia, everybody's coming to get me. Is that Thousands? When did that come out?
That came
Early
out in the
2000s?
90s,
Did
I
it?
believe.
Okay. It's a good song, man.
But that's one song that I've been trying to get into at any Rockwell show.
So have I. One line of it was in the
Mm-hmm.
Hocus Pocus medley.
Yeah, but I wanted to do the whole song in pretty much every show, and it
So
just
have
hasn't
I.
fit.
I've always brought it up because it is such a fun song. And I feel like every time that song comes on, which is not often, you're like, oh my God, yes. There are very few songs in the world where I feel like I would stop what I was doing to sing along. And I think maybe part of it is that it's not constantly playing.
Sure.
So you like,
I'm not sick, but
I'm not well. So good.
Yeah.
But any Mariah Carey song, would you stop what you're doing and sing along?
Yes.
I mean, I would stop everyone from what they were doing. I'd say, halt!
She like pulls the car over.
She's like, wait, hold on.
I just stop in the middle of the freeway.
She's like stands on her car and does this.
Yeah.
So if it's like a Mariah Carey radio station, you're like, oh no, gotta turn this off quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a Mariah Carey station, not a lot gets done.
Like the Christmas season when Mariah's on all the time, like we can't go anywhere.
We don't do anything. We don't eat. We don't sleep.
We just wait for
We
the
just
next
listen.
time Mariah is on. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. No judgment there.
Thank you.
And then what's the funniest thing that's happened on stage to you all on the show?
Funniest thing that's happened on stage. I will say that the hardest I've ever laughed on stage was when I was doing a show called I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change. And there's one song about going shopping. A husband is going shopping with his wife. And the opening line of the song is, we came to buy shoes like she needs more shoes. And then there's like a drop in like the drums. And I came out, I sang that, and I had these like my arms are stuffed to the brim with bags of shoe boxes. And I came out and I just looked at the audience and I said, we came to buy shoes. And the entire audience just started howling with laughter. And I didn't really understand why, because I didn't think I had said the punchline yet. But I guess just the visual image of me standing there like with arms full of boxes and shopping bags was enough for people to find funny. But then they didn't stop laughing. And it became like 2.5 minutes of everybody just laughing. And like the other actors like were looking around the curtain at me, and I was just on stage laughing with the audience because I didn't even know what to do. I was waiting on the piano to pick back in, but we were just sitting there laughing, and the audience was laughing, and I was laughing, and I was just like, all right, this is a moment. This is what's happening.
Love it. Have you guys seen that video? I just saw someone post it, but it was like A Little Fall of Rain from Les Mis. At first I was mad because I didn't realize it was a rehearsal. I thought it was a performance, but it was a rehearsal, so this is okay. Marius is holding Eponine, and her squib like gets squished, so just blood like shoots out all over the place. And he's singing, and she's like, don't you fret me. And he's like, and she's like, miss you. And they sing the whole song laughing, and it's the most dramatic song in the world ever. It's so funny. And yeah, watch. At first I was like, wait a minute, don't ruin this. Like, just go with it. But then I was like, it was like a high school production of it too, so it was not a big deal. But it made me laugh so hard when I realized.
What was that? Oh my god.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. You just reminded me. I feel like so many funny things have happened on stage at Rockwell that I can't even pinpoint one. So I'm going to go all the way back to high school. I was starring in the Pajama Game. I was a sophomore, and my friend Danny Segura was opposite me, and we fall in love, and we sing this duet at the end, and we're supposed to say like, I think the song's called I Love You More, but the whole premise is like, I'm trying to remember how it starts. It's like, whatever, there's like a famous person in history. Well, I love you more than that. It's like, there once was a man who loved a woman, loved her enough to start the Trojan War. They say that nobody ever loved as much as she. Anyway, so it's like, then it goes back and forth. I love you more than na 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 na, more than na 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 na, more than na 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 na. And so we come out and we're singing it, and I blank. I cannot for the life of me. I'm starting to open my mouth. This happens to me periodically, where I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say right now. And I was supposed to say, more than a guzzler loves his gin, which is already kind of a weird lyric for like a love song, but like whatever. Couldn't remember. And he's looking at me, and it's like, dun, dun, dun. He's saying his line, and I'm like, and I go, more than a guinea pig loves his snout. And he's like, what? And he just starts laughing, and I'm like, and I can't remember any, like, I just keep making up these weird things that make no sense because I can't remember any, like, once I forgot the first thing, I'm like, I have no idea. I was just like pulling things out of my butt. Okay, that's a very fond memory for me.
More than the fisherman loves his trout.
And surprise, someone from Rockwell was there and remembered you from that performance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, she can handle Rockwell.
Yeah, let's put her in a show. This girl's gonna make big moves.
Yes. So they were like, yeah, I remember that way, like back then.
Yeah.
She was in high school.
Skinny pigs.
That's amazing. And then what's the first day when quarantine ends? I don't know when it will, but like when it gets back to normal and stuff, or whatever normal is in the world, what's the first thing you're gonna do?
The first thing, well, after like hugging my whole family, because I feel like that's just a given. As far as like something, I feel like I'm gonna go sit inside a restaurant and be wined and dined for like 3 hours right before going and sitting in a movie theater and watching a movie, and then getting a massage. What else can't I do? And then going out for drinks with friends.
You're gonna have a whole night.
I have a whole.
Afternoon into evening
This is
planned.
a long day of fun, but there are so many things I miss so much, and many of them are champagne problems. Absolutely.
I feel bad for the restaurant workers who are gonna have to like tell people, no, you can't stay 5 hours at this restaurant after quarantine.
Or you can just like compensate them for being there for 5 hours. But yes, that's true. They probably have to turn those tables pretty quickly.
It's like, we have other customers waiting for a table.
Not today, you don't. Just me.
Yeah, I want to stay for 5 hours.
I think for me, like, I just can't wait to be back on set, like filming. I'm just so excited about the opportunity to get back to work. Because even though we have managed to stay pretty busy, the COVID protocols and whatnot, with the testing and masks and everything, keeping the sets safe, there's still a lot of travel and whatnot that is up in the air as far as what feels safe, what, comfortability. And so I think that just the ability to move around without having to necessarily plan for 2 weeks of quarantine, and in doing so, living in California, my family lives in Florida, so I would love to go back and spend time with them, but they're also of the age where they're susceptible to getting sick more easily. So I look forward to the chance to be able to go see them more regularly, or have them come see us, or any of our family in that capacity, and be able to interact in that way.
Yes, and just like, I feel like just traveling in general right now.
Yeah.
Like, we all need it.
Yeah, for real. That's brutal not being able to do that. And like simple things like getting a haircut. I still haven't had my haircut in 8 months, and I know people are doing that, but like I know that every time I work, I had my 10th COVID test a couple days ago because I was working, and every time I go on set, I have to get tested, and God forbid I have a positive test result because I like, was like, screw it, I'm just gonna go, I know it's probably unlikely if everyone's masked and they're following all the protocols, but it just makes me nervous.
I do have an addendum to my answer, and now thinking about it, the film that I've been producing that is coming out on October 2nd, we were supposed to have like a theatrical release, and because of the COVID and theaters closing down, like we didn't get to. And so I think for me, like getting to have that at some point, even if it's like a friends and family screening, to be like, this is what I've been working on the last 3 years, like, and we get to all do it in the way that it was intended to be done. But not until then. I don't encourage anybody going to the theaters and getting sick. But I think for me, like, that would be a cool moment.
Yeah. Yes, and a deserved moment. Do you know if it's going to play at any, like, drive-thrus or anything?
We don't know yet. I know that it's going to be on all the digital platforms and is available for pre-sale now. But the theatrical in the UK, in Great Britain, will open November 30th. And so there's different markets that it is getting to play in theaters, just not here. So we're going to try to make the most of it and have everybody watch it from home.
Yes, a big Zoom party.
Exactly.
And then what else? Do you all have anything else that you can talk about? Can you talk about the Christmas movie that you all worked on?
I think so.
Yeah. It's called White Elephant, and we auditioned independently of one another, and then we were called back together and read together and ended up booking it together, along with another friend of ours, Carmela Zimbato, who, if you've seen the second season of You, she plays Delilah. She's a very close friend, and it's an 8-person cast, and 3 of us are super tight, so that just worked out wonderfully because, to be making a movie in quarantine, you're like, I know we're all getting tested, like, there's
a certain amount of trust.
Yeah, because somebody could get tested and then immediately go to a bar, like, you don't know, so you just kind of have to hope that no one's doing that. But we don't know details as far as when or where it will be distributed, but we can tell you it will be a lot of fun to watch once
it's going to be great fun. We got an email a few days ago from the director producer who is very excited by what he was seeing in the edit. So we expect that it will come out this year, but as soon as we have more details, we'll let people know on our socials.
Yes, and then I have to look up the exact date, but I have a Christmas movie called Christmas on the Menu, and it's going to be Lifetime. I'm a supporting character in that, but it will be out on December 18th on Lifetime. Christmas on the Menu.
Oh, yeah.
And then
we just had a series that premiered on Topic called Release, about a fictional pandemic that we had actually filmed prior to the real pandemic.
We filmed it in 2018 in New York, and then it just came out on the Topic app, and they got a lot of things right. The masks and the quarantining and all that. Mm-hmm. So if you want to see that, we play a couple in that as well. And if you go to the Walmart app, there's a thing called Camp. It's like an at-home camp I burned myself baking cookies twice, but this one was like 2 days ago.
Oh my God.
Fresh one. The Walmart app, it's like activities for families. So it's like, they have like a bunch of celebrities teaching you how to do stuff, and then just like professionals and experts in different things. But like LeBron James is on it, and Idina Menzel and Drew Barrymore, and like all these cool people are teaching you fun activities. And I'm a camp counselor with Neil Patrick Harris. So I've been shooting more stuff for that. So if you want to check that out, that's out there as well.
Yes.
And
Family Style, she also is on a food, not reality show, but
Yeah, it's a food friends travel show that, because of quarantine, it's all in LA this season. But it's the second season. It's on Stage 13, which is a division of Warner Brothers. It's a digital arm. But the whole second season's almost all out now. You can watch that.
Lots of stuff.
And The Rising Hawk.
And The Rising Hawk.
October 2nd.
October 2nd, all of VOD. That's so soon.
It's so soon, and he's been working on it for years, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, and so people can buy and rent that and tell everybody they know about it, and then they can buy and rent it, and so on and so forth.
Yes, and I'm going to throw a party on October 2nd for you.
Yay! Yay!
Yes. I'm so excited that y'all have been doing so much, because it gives people things to watch, and people need to be entertained during this time. So
I hope so.
Yeah. We've been fortunate to get to work a bit during this, and hopefully things continue to open up and we can all, with proper testing and masks and social distancing, we can continue to, almost be back to normal.
Right.
Almost.
Yes. And then to keep up with you all and how busy you all have been staying during this time period, where can people follow you all on social media?
I'm at Lana McKissack across all platforms.
And I am at natmo904 on Instagram, or at The Rising Hawk Movie.
Yes.
You're also at the Nathan Moore on Twitter.
Yeah, there's different stuff. Just find her and then you'll find me.
We're not on TikTok. I just joined, but I don't have an account yet. I just joined to be like, what is this TikTok people keep talking about?
TikTok.
So we're figuring that out now. Or you can go to youtube.com/Lana McKissack if you want to look at
some of the
videos
shorts
from
that
5 years ago.
Hey. And there's some amazing covers on there too, so.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
So that's fun for people to watch. Well, thank you all for coming on and talking to me.
Thank you, Becca. It's so nice to see your beautiful face. It's been months.
Absolutely.
6 months.
Literally 6 months, yeah.
Months. I mean, I've seen you on the gram, but not like moving. You're just like stationary.
Yeah, trying to pose cute.
Love it.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, thank you for having us.
Of course. Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!